Imagine being born into a country where your every move is watched. Your parents whisper in fear, and your neighbor might report you, just for smiling at the wrong moment. This wasn't a dystopian movie. This was real. This was Romania, under the most paranoid dictator you've never heard of, Nicolae Ceaușescu. And if you were born here, your life wasn't really yours. It was his. In 1965, Nicolae Ceaușescu rose to power. He was young, charismatic, and to many, a symbol of hope. He promised change, pride, independence. He stood up to the Soviet Union, even publicly, condemned the 1968 invasion of Czechoslovakia. The West cheered. France gave him medals. The UK rolled out red carpets. Queen Elizabeth hosted him at Buckingham Palace. For a brief moment, Romania believed, maybe this man would free them. Maybe, this time, history would be kind. But behind those smiles and handshakes, Ceaușescu wasn't building a nation. He was building a prison, brick by brick, law by law, fear by fear. He didn't just want loyalty, he wanted worship. Ceaușescu called himself a genius. He made his birthday a national holiday. He gave himself names like the Danube of Thought, the Titan of Titans, and the Genius of the Carpathians. His wife Elena was called the Mother of the Nation. Though she had no scientific background, she was granted fake PhDs and titles. They were everywhere. Portraits, statues, giant banners fluttering above city squares. In schools, children were forced to memorize his life story. TV was flooded with his speeches, some lasting over 6 hours. Clapping wasn't optional. In government halls, people clapped for 10, 20, sometimes 30 minutes straight. Not out of joy, out of fear. Nobody wanted to be the first to stop, because the first to stop might disappear. Control wasn't just public, it was personal. In 1966, Ceaușescu outlawed abortion and contraception. His reason? He wanted to grow Romania's population fast. He believed the more citizens he had, the more powerful he'd become. So, women became breeding tools. Doctors were ordered to report women who didn't get pregnant. Every month, women were forced to undergo gynecological exams at work. State surveillance, weight of your body. No pregnancy. Suspicion. Too many miscarriages. Investigation. Abortions. A crime. Women began using coat hangers, drinking bleach, risking death. Just for the right to choose. And the children born from forced pregnancy? Many were unwanted. Thousands were dumped into orphanages. Imagine being 5 years old, locked in a dark room, tied to a metal bed frame. Your screams ignored. Your body bruised from beatings. Your mind never taught to speak. Romania's orphanages were overflowing. Tens of thousands of children, many disabled, most neglected. Flies swarmed their wounds. Rats scurried across cold floors. They were starved, forgotten, broken. Foreign aid workers who visited called it hell on earth. They said the smell, a mix of urine, rot, and despair, stayed in their clothes for weeks. Some kids rocked back and forth endlessly. Others stared blankly at walls, not from mental illness, but from what the state did to their souls. Ceaușescu's secret police, the Securitate, became one of the most feared in the world. Their job? Watch, listen, report, control. They planted microphones in homes, churches, even public bathrooms. They opened your mail. They tapped your phone. They followed you on the street. But their most terrifying trick? Turning ordinary people into informants. Your neighbor could report you, your coworker, your priest, your spouse, even your child. Schools quietly trained kids to spy on parents, to report suspicious behavior. A mother crying while washing dishes. A father turning off the TV during a speech. A whispered prayer. 1 in 3 Romanians became an informant. No one was safe, not even in their own thoughts. By the 1980s, Romania was drowning in tertiary to repay loans. Ceaușescu began exporting everything. Grain, oil, electricity, even medicine. What was left for his people? Nothing. Supermarkets had empty shelves. Families stood in line for hours and sometimes days just to buy bread. One loaf per family, sometimes moldy, sometimes none at all. In winter, electricity was rationed. Heaters shut off. People wore jackets indoors. Water pipes froze. Children shivered under thin blankets. Some didn't wake up. And while the nation starved, Ceaușescu built the People's Palace, one of the largest and most expensive buildings on earth. Marble imported from Italy. Chandeliers heavier than cars. Over 1,000 rooms, a golden palace, built on the broken backs of the hungry. And yet, they still clapped, still smiled, still praised him on TV, because not doing so could mean death. People practiced smiling in the mirror. Children rehearsed cheers before parades. A single wrong expression could cost your future. Silence wasn't golden. Silence was suspicious. So people became actors. Performers in a national play where the script was written in fear. But even dictators forget. Fear is a fragile throne. In December 1989, in the city of Timișoara, the regime tried to evict a Hungarian pastor. A small group gathered in protest. The military opened. Christians were killed. But something changed that day. Instead of retreating, people rose. Timișoara exploded with protests. The rage spread to Bucharest. For the first time in decades, the people weren't afraid. Even Ceaușescu sensed it. He called for a televised speech to calm the nation. But as he stood on that balcony, the crowd booed. Live on camera, the chants of "Down with Ceaușescu" rang across the country. His face changed. For the first time, he looked afraid. He and Elena tried to flee in a helicopter. They were captured. On December 25, 1989, Christmas Day, the dictator and his wife were put on trial. A rushed trial, but a real one. The charges? Genocide, corruption, abuse of power. They were sentenced to death, no appeals, no delay. A few hours later, they were dragged outside. Nicolae shouted, "Long live Socialist Romania!" But before he could finish the word Romania, gunfire erupted. The execution was broadcast on national TV. The same TV that had once shown his endless speeches now showed his end. The nightmare was over. But the scars, they stayed. The orphanages, still full. The hospitals, still empty. The people, still quiet. Years of silence had rewired their souls. Even in freedom, many whispered, still afraid of being watched. Mothers mourned children lost to hunger. Fathers buried wives who died from illegal abortions. Entire generations, born under terror. It would take decades to heal. Nicolae Ceaușescu wanted to become a god. But gods don't starve their people. Gods don't spy on children. Gods don't build palaces from pain. In the end, he was just a man. A paranoid man. A cruel man. A dictator who ruled with fear and fell to the fire he created. But the most haunting part? The world knew. Western leaders shook his hand, praised his independence, and looked away, while children died in cold cribs. So ask yourself, if it happened once, could it happen again? Stay curious. Stay human. Stay awake. Subscribe, because history forgotten is history repeated.